Coming up next, I'll tell you how you can help workers that have been laid off due to the coronavirus, and I'll teach you what I've learned from restoring an antique car. We'll take your calls and your chats. It all starts right now. I'm coming to you live from Ramsey Studios in Nashville, and you are joining a conversation about who you are, what you were created to do, where you want to do it, and how you can get there. It is all about you contributing through your work, contributing in the role that you were designed to fill. And we're excited each and every day as we talk to caller after caller after caller to see the light bulb of clarity come on. Because that means that once you're clear, you can be confident. And as you're walking confidently forward, you'll have the courage to stay with it when life throws those curves, those unexpected delays, and you really matter. Somebody in this world needs you to show up today and tomorrow and for the rest of your life to be you, because you have something to give to make their world better. That is heavy, but worthy stuff. And so for those of you who are a little bit down, maybe a lot down, dealing with tremendous fear, maybe depression and doubt and anxiety over who you are, what you want to do, and how you can get there, this is a safe place for you, because we're going to dive into you. You have the answers. I don't. It's my job to pull them out of you. So let's go. 844-747-2577. That's the number. Call in right now. Also submit your chat questions right now. We'll get to those a little bit later in the program. I saw this article in the Wall Street Journal, and it just made me, just one of those little clicks when you read a headline, and I'm not diving into negative headlines, I'm diving into positive headlines, and this was a positive headline. You know, what can you do, or how can you help workers who've been laid off due to this suppression of our economy through the coronavirus? And they listed out several things. I thought, you know what, this is really good. I just want to list these really quick. I'm going to add one, and I think this is a challenge. I'm going to challenge you. So real quick, here's what you can do. When you have hourly workers, self-employed or smaller businesses that are doing services for you around the house, things of that nature, if you can pay them, meaning your job hasn't been interrupted, your income hasn't been interrupted, and you might be a little bit nervous. And I get it. You know, a lot of the economic suppression has come from people who just said, oh, this is scary, we don't know what's going to happen, and we're not going to spend as much money. And I get it. However, if you can, keep paying those companies, those small businesses, or keep paying that hourly worker. If you can, keep paying them. The second thing is when you can donate to what you believe are really good causes in this time that are helping those that are disadvantaged. And maybe it's just food. It doesn't have to be money or clothing. You know, we've seen food lines all around the country for those who are very low income and they've had their income interrupted. And so look for opportunities, not just to donate money, but to donate your time, donate your goods that you may have that can bless somebody, and donate food. Another one that they mentioned in the article, and then I'll mention one, tip more. You know, Dave Ramsey actually tweeted this last night. You know, we've opened back up in Tennessee, and they went to a local restaurant, and he tipped a good bit extra because those folks have not been working. And again, if you can't afford it, dig deep on the tip for the pizza guy, whatever. And then I'll add one, look for opportunities to make a recommendation that's attached to a connection. A recommendation attached to a connection for these folks. You know, you may not be able to pay them right now. Let's say that the situation, but you know somebody who could, and, open up a door, connect them, go out of your way. If you can't pay them, and even if you can pay them, go above and beyond to make a connection with your recommendation. That'll really help people in this time because we're going to get through this. 844-747 2577, 844-747-2577 is the number. Again, don't forget to put your chat questions in the chat room there next to the video window. And a quick shout out to all of you who have subscribed and who like these shows while you're watching. There's a thumbs up down there. Hit the thumbs up. If you want to hit a thumbs down, why are you here? Leave and spare us the thumbs down. You can object by stop watching. How about that? But we are so grateful for those of you who have joined this tribe here on YouTube. And our numbers in this coronavirus have gone up. And that is encouraging because we want to help as many people as possible. So you can help us help more people by liking today, and every day that you watch, just hit that thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, give us a subscribe and then share an episode. That would mean the world to us. And all of those things are very easy to do, just seconds and one click. So thank you very much. 844-747-2577. Jeff is up in Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Jeff, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Ken. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy to have you. What's going on, Jeff?
Well, awesome. First, I got to give a huge shout out to Madison because we've talked quite a bit back and forth, and you got to give her a raise, man. That she does a phenomenal job for you.
Hey, so. Whoa, hey. Yeah, we love Madison. Madison, when you said her name, she did the old she did the flex. She did the flex. Can we zoom in? Can we get Madison? We can't. We only get Joe. All right. Well, there we go. She's trying to get in the shot with her there. She's trying to. Can't really see, but anyway, Jeff, she's awesome, no question about it. I will add a quick shout out, and then we'll get into your question. One thing that's really cool about Madison is she talks to every caller as much, almost as I do. You know, in getting you all screened and ready to get live on the air, and I'm trying to talk her into guest hosting one day. She said she'll do that when pigs fly, so I don't like my chances, but she is amazing. So, and by the way, you know, a lot of people are nervous, and this is a nerve-wracking thing. She's such a wonderful, kind, even Steven person, and she hates public speaking, any kind of public thing, as much as you do. So she is the nicest, best person for you to talk to, folks, when you call into the show.
Well, it depends who you ask.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what that means. You know, you hate getting in front of people and talking.
Oh, no, I hate. No, well, yeah.
So my point is if we got callers who are nervous, you are the best, most empathetic voice on the planet.
I tell everybody I'll talk you through everything, and it's just like when you get on with Ken, it's just like talking to a friend on the phone.
Thank you.
Don't even
think
about the radio.
Yeah, forget the radio. All right, Jeff, what's going on?
Well, here's the deal. I'm 50 years old now, and I've put my life and my heart into my work throughout, since I was 18 years old. And now I'm kind of at the point. Things are getting a little bit older. I got some grandkids I'm collecting, and you can never spend enough time with your wife and your family, but you still got to pay the bills. And I'm thinking, in retrospect, I probably should have started working on something that I love to do, that can make me a living, probably about 10 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago, so that someday I could be doing those things and making a good living. I mean, I'm not greedy, but you got to pay the rent.
Yeah.
And so now I'm behind the eight ball. I got to get things moving. I got to get things working. I got to get things in place. And
what do you want to do?
Of course, this COVID stuff. What do I want to do? Well, it goes back to when I was a paramedic for 15 years. I was an EMS instructor. Got to go to a lot of conferences for that, and started out probably way back then. Those speakers, three of them, I don't know if I'm allowed to say their names, but
yeah, you can say your
great speakers. Yeah. Mike Smith, Baxter Larman, Steve Berry. Okay. Mike has left us now. He's passed on. But they were so inspiring. You would hear them speak and teach, and they were always keynotes, of course, but when you were left, you felt like you could do anything. You were excited to apply everything that you learned, and you were excited to adapt it. And I knew the first time I heard one of them, and I believe it was probably Mike Smith, I wanted to do that. I needed to do that. That was that was the adrenaline rush inside of me when I wasn't on an ambulance call, of course.
So who do you want to speak to, and what would you speak about? Well,
since then, I transitioned into retail sales 13 years ago. sales management, and I ended up having my own store. And then I ended up, before I knew it, I had 5 other stores looking up to me and their leaders looking to me. So I actually evolved into more of wanting to speak to teams and individuals and companies and teach and inspire, those sort of things.
Okay.
So
are you still in that role? What are you doing for a job now?
Well, so I applied your proximity principle. I'm not sure whether the book was even out at the time, but I had been listening to you at the time.
Yeah.
And about a year and a half ago, I transitioned out of retail sales. Felt some things going in the company that I was with that I didn't really want. So I reached out to a business customer of mine that I had served for many years and looked for an opportunity. I'm a assistant GM for him at a
great.
We won't disclose that. So
yeah, got it. So you're very stable and doing well. Yes or no?
Yeah, I'm stable.
Okay, so when you say you're behind the 8 ball, what does that mean? You mean just being able to work for yourself to where you can control your schedule and spend more time with those grandbabies over the next 15 years?
Yep. That's what I'm talking about. I'm making a living, and I'll continue to make a living.
How much do you make?
On another person's schedule. Right now, I make 40.
Okay. So in order to work for yourself, you need to replace $40,000 a year. That's what it boils down to.
Even more, because I took a pay cut in order to get into a better, lower stress job.
Okay.
So
all right, but so this is a heart thing, and this is a lifestyle thing, and what you want to be able to do is work for yourself. Okay, so let's be real frank. To be a full-time keynote speaker, that is not something not a celebrity, you're not well known. So to just jump into keynote speaking and generate that kind of revenue, 40, 50, 60 grand, whatever it is you want to make, that's going to take time. I will tell you that I think at 50, you can, there's no time constrictions on you being able to get there, but this is a career path that is very similar to broadcasting, what I've done in some ways and what I do, in that you have got to pay your dues and put in a lot of long, tedious gigs and hours and develop your craft. You have to speak a lot early on to get good. And that's the type of thing that, in Devil's Lake, North Dakota, and you got a day job, the flexibility is going to be an issue.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it would be different if you worked for yourself now. Let's say you were self-employed and you made 40 grand and you were taking care of yourself. Then you could spend a little bit more time developing the speaking. But you can get in the speaking market and you can charge $2 grand, $2,500, $3 grand, whatever. Early on, you got to charge small amounts of money like that for a keynote, and then you work your way up. You do a good job and you start to really build a reputation out there, and you've got really good content. Because understand, Jeff, that if a corporation is going to book you to come in and speak to their team, they're going to want to watch what you've done. They're going to want to read real referrals from companies that have paid you. So this kind of thing takes time. So you're going to have to understand that you've got a challenge in that you can get there, presumably that you've got the talent to speak, okay? And I want you to make sure that you've talked to people who know you well enough and love you well enough to shoot you straight. And I hope, that you really do have the chops. You've got the ability, the raw talent. Remember, the sweet spot is the intersection of what you do best and what you love to do most, and results that matter most. So it spits out the work, spits out results that you love. So presuming that you are a decent communicator that can become very good, it's still going to take you a lot of time, and you don't have a lot of flexibility because you work for somebody else. So there's a layer between going from working for the guy you work for now, working for the man, if you will, to being able to speak enough to develop over time a speaking career that then could pay you full time. So you have to make the jump from working for the man to working for yourself to then doing the speaking on the side. So $40,000, what business can you get going over the next year or two? You can start a side hustle now while you're working for somebody else and get that thing going. And then the speaking, it will have to happen on the side. The only other thing I would tell you to consider is, I know you love the keynote speaking, but what you really loved was how the speaker got up and moved you. And you want to move the hearts and minds of others. So my question would be, how can you communicate maybe to leaders and teams, because that's the core audience, in a non-keynote speaker career? See, there's multiple careers in a person's sweet spot, and that's not the only way. So I'm going to send you back, and I want you to consider that option because I think that's going to be a better path for you. Because at the end of the day, keynote speaking versus communicating maybe in a company in an HR role or something like that, or maybe communicating to students or working in a government role where you're doing some training. I don't know. You've got to look at all the ways you could communicate and what you would want to communicate and the result of the communication. Look for the match. And I think you'll find there's a lot of opportunity there. Let's go to Ryan in Burley, Idaho. Ryan, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hey, Ken, how you doing?
Ryan, I'm living the dream. What's going on?
Awesome. So I have a quick question for you. I'll make it brief. I'm at a job where technically what I did is I took your quiz last weekend, and come to find out, I knew what the results might have been, and the results of the quiz.
What did you test at? Well, you took the "Should I quit my job" quiz, and what was your result?
Yeah, I was in the wrong place and the wrong. In the wrong
place, wrong role. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've been doing a lot of thinking, and over the years, I've had a lot of people say, "Hey, come do this job," or "Hey, come do that job," or "Hey," and so that's the kind of life I love, So I would do that and that and that. Well, just recently, I've been just kind of doing a lot of soul searching. I guess is what you could say about what kind of good things I would be good at, and more or less, I've kind of realized that I've done a lot of. What I like doing is construction type work or, warehouse type work where I've got, for example, I had one job where I was working at a heating and air conditioning shop where, the heating and air conditioning guys could come in and get their, their products or whatever it is to, install in homes and electronic work kind of things like that.
Yeah.
And so I've thought, okay, I'm like, what? I would probably, myself, my personality, I would be really, I feel like I could be really good at doing the, being an electrician and, that way of solving, those kind of issues, for people, when they have those kind of problems.
Okay. So what's holding you up?
So, well, the thing is so this weekend or tomorrow, I have an opportunity to go talk with a guy that I know, a family friend of mine that's an electrician. And we were going to meet up and, just talk about the job and talk about, the career-wise and whatnot. But he had called me, he called me the other day and said, hey, the crew, you were going to job shadow with, the house fell through, so they're going to be in the shop tomorrow, so we can move it to next week. And I thought, okay, that'd be great. But what if I were to, in a sense, continue to maybe just let him know, hey, I'd like to come up and just, visit with you guys and just see what the job is all about, and then, next week I could go in and shadow with you. Would that be a good thing to do?
It's not the good thing to do, it's the thing to do.
Okay.
I don't know why you're doubting that, but that's exactly what I teach in the proximity principle. That's why I wrote the book. And get around people that are doing what you want to do and get in places where what you want to do is happening. Here's why, Ryan. Because when you're out there shadowing, you're going to get more clarity on what the job looks like and what it entails and the good parts about it and the bad parts or the parts that might be boring. And you get to just see it all and truly assess it. And so that's clarifying. And when you do that, you go, oh, I verify that, yes, I do want to do this. Or I verify, thought I wanted to, don't want to. So that's why you do that. Good on you, man. Absolutely. Do more of that. Shadow some guys in construction. Shadow some guys in other areas. Do all of that because you have a general idea. I think you're pretty clear about the general area, the type of work that you want to be engaged in. So confirmation is just steps away, and you're taking the first step. So good. Yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely the right thing to do. 844-747-2577 is the number. Coming up in a few moments, I'm going to teach you 4 things that I learned and observed in restoring my 1972 Volkswagen Karmann Ghia. It was delivered last night. We'll show you pictures in a little bit. But there are 4 things that I learned in this process. And it's not so much that I learned, I was reminded of these things. And it's perfect for those of you that need to restore your career. For those of you that are setting out on the journey. It's so good. And so I'll give you those 4 things in a few moments. But to the chat room we go. Chris Garfius says, Ken, as a new nursing home administrator, how does my wife rally her staff, specifically department heads, to get behind her with implementing COVID-19 regulations in her facility? She's meeting lots of resistance. I'd love, Chris, for your wife to call the show so that I can hear more about this. But here is, again, a general answer without knowing where she's meeting resistance and how, and what that resistance looks like. That's really important to know that. However, she's new. So the new person comes in, and she's not just new, she's new in a leadership position. So people don't like change. Okay? So she represents 2 types of change instantly. A new leader, oh boy, all right? Lots of unknowns for those folks. And so in the human response, the natural response is when we don't know, we fill in the gaps with what we're afraid of or what we doubt. So she represents change in 2 ways. New leader, and now new way of doing things. Okay? People don't like that. So their defenses are already up. So I would tell you that if there are certain things that she needs to implement right away that's coming from somewhere above her, she's going to have to explain to them, listen, this isn't me, okay, coming up with these things, but I have to implement and execute. And I get it that there's a lot of questions about this, so I want to answer all of your questions and to the extent that I can address most of your concerns. That's on the things that she has to implement. On things that she doesn't have to implement right away, I would tell her to hold. And in the interim time of holding before she brings in a bunch of new things, she needs to build relationships. That's what she needs to do. And remember, she represents change in 2 ways, and that's just a natural defense up. I don't know. I'm going to keep you at arm's length. She needs to break down the barriers relationally. That's spending time one-on-one with these people, team building things, letting these people realize she's an awesome woman. She cares about us. She also acknowledges that we got a lot of unknowns with her as a leader, and we like the way we've been doing things. See, I always like to address the tension. Everybody knows the tension's there. Why don't we talk about it? And if she can take the tension out of the room with that kind of approach. Now, again, I just gave you a very general answer because this is a chat question. Chris, this is why I do the show. I'd have her call in. We can change her name. We don't have to say where she's from, change the location. Don't even have to say what business she's in. But I can get more specific if I have specific things to address. Justin Miller writes in, how do you recover from setbacks? I'm in a new role, and it seems whenever I have a setback, I hesitate and have to rebuild my confidence to move forward. Yeah. The key on overcoming setbacks is, I think, 2 things. The first thing is that you need to immediately upon having the setback, go ahead and dig into it. A lot of people just, they don't want to analyze the setback because the setback's already painful enough. And so it's just like, and we want to kind of just move on. It's not fun. And so we want to avoid reliving the setback. However, when there's a setback, it's really important. While it's painful, just stay in the pain so that we're not doubling up on it. And so stay in it just long enough. And again, this is short-term reflection. Let's get in there. Why did the setback happen? What could I do differently? What would I do the same? How much of this is me? How much of this is external things that I cannot control? It's really important to walk through that so that you have some real clarity and perspective right after the setback has happened. Because if you can get really clear on what happened and what you can control going forward to maybe not have a similar setback, or realizing I had no control over most of this just is life, this happens, that kind of clarity sets you up for the second action item. And that's where you, again, we want to think about a clear future. So we want to get clear on the setback, what happened and why, how I can do things differently in the future. Okay, now we want to get clear on the long-term goals. How does this setback really affect my long-term vision? And we deal with that too, even if it's painful. And in thinking about the long term, you get your eyes off of the short term. You go, okay, I still have the long-term vision. I still know what I want to do, where I want to do it, why I want to do it. And so now I'm going to have to adjust the how. And I'm going to have to adjust the timeline. And I'm going to have to save up some more money. Whatever the situation is. But that approach right there is how you get back on track after a setback. And I think there's one other thing I would say to you is that, it seems like you're having a tough time with setbacks, and we all do. But I think I'd love for you to start to say, you know what? If I am a person who is going to intentionally move forward, day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out, I'm a person that wants to live and work on purpose. The setbacks are a part of the deal. The only way to never have setbacks is to sit still. The only way to not have a setback is to step back, to stay back from the pack. I'm real good. I like where I am. I'm fine. I'm fine right here. I don't want to move. I like it right here. I'm a little square. I'm good. Great. No setbacks. You will have no setbacks. You will also die inside, and you will be a miserable soul. I promise. If you aren't making progress in your life in some area, growing as a person, this isn't just a professional piece of advice here. So understand that setbacks aren't all the evil that we think they are. So that's how you handle a setback. 844-747-2577 is the number. I've got the allergy voice again, Nathan. So this is the Swig of Water brought to you by the Ken Coleman Show tumbler. You a little scratchy too, Joe?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I got to tell you, the pollen was about 1.5 inches thick on the old hood of the car this morning.
Well, it hasn't rained yet. The wind is whipping like crazy.
Yeah,
it's
there
just
you go.
moving the pollen around.
All right. Speaking of pollen on the car, I really wanted to drive the convertible 1972 Volkswagen Carmen Ghia. Nathan, let's throw that up on the screen when you get a chance. Oh my gosh, look at that thing. Oh man,
She's a beauty.
That's a beautiful, beautiful car. Madison doesn't even know 1972. Like that is like an ancient year to her.
No, that's like biblical times.
Biblical times, she says. Yeah.
Dinosaurs roamed.
Yeah, that's 1972 AD, by the way.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Nixon was reelected.
What?
Nixon was reelected in 72.
Thank you, Joe. Joe is so excited.
Time ago.
He just got to say Richard Nixon. Half of my viewing audience is going, who? No idea who Richard Nixon
Google,
is.
I'm not a crook.
Yeah, Google one of our former presidents. All right, so anyway, quick context. That car that Nathan put up on the screen, put that back up there. Oh boy, that makes me happy. Do you have the before pictures? You didn't. Oh, see, I didn't give them to you. Okay, so anyway, I'll tell you what, you can go to my Instagram page at Ken Coleman, and you can see what it looked like 6 months ago. But anyway, so this is a car that my dad bought when I was 17 years of age, Joe. And I'll never forget, he drove it in one day. This is before cell phones, you know what I mean? So it was like, Dad just drove the thing home one day. He didn't call us and say, hey, guys, get out on the front lawn and come see this thing. You know, and he found it and you know, it was beat up. But that car's just a beautiful car. And I loved it. As soon as I laid eyes on it, I fell in love with it. And I remember saying to myself, one of these days, I want that car, Dad. Well, so it's been sitting in his garage for 20 years, and he decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you, and I'm paying for all the restoration. So we get in the process, and I'm not a gearhead at all. And so my brother in Virginia, that was on his front lawn, that picture, he's been running project manager for me, and I'm, you know, picking things out and learning about parts and, you know, running through the budget, and we had to get the thing running, had to get the mechanics done. And then we started working on the exterior and what you see now, and I picked the color out and all that. I picked the wheels. Look at those wheels, Joe. Holy moly, those wheels look good. And so now I'm going to be working on the interior. It got delivered last night. But there's 4 things that I learned, and I think this will really, really encourage those of you who you've taken our Should I Quit My Job quiz, and you know you're in the wrong place, in the wrong role, and you got to switch careers, or some of you have been out of work for a while, and you know, you just got to get back in it, and some of you are going, man, I know what the dream is, but it's going to take a long time. And anything worth doing, like restoring a car or restoring a house or restoring a career, restoring a reputation, it's worth it, but it is going to take some time. 4 things. Here they are. 4 things I learned that are necessary in restoring a car, a classic car, or a house that'll help you. Number 1, imagination. I remember when a year ago, I was back at home in Virginia, and we went in my dad's garage, and it had stuff all over it. It had 6 or 7 inches of dust sitting on it. And I remember looking at this thing going, I just know this thing can be beautiful. I know it. I can see it. I really want to restore this car. And that's when the conversation began with my dad. Okay, you want to restore it? I want to see it have the life that I wanted for it, you know, blah, blah, blah. So number 1, imagination. You have to imagine the future that you want. You have to see it. Because I'm going to tell you something. There were times where I would look at that car and go, oh, man, I don't know. But every time I would come back to that imagination of what we just saw on the screen, what it could be. That's imagination. Number 2, conviction. See, you have to go from imagination to conviction. Oh, this has got to happen. I got to do it. I am going to do it. I want this to stay in the family. I want to be something I pass down to my kids. I want to take my wife Stacy out in this thing for ice cream. I want to do it. The conviction began to well up inside of me. That led to, once you get in the process, you got to have determination. See, it's not enough to have the imagination to see it and then the conviction to feel the juice that, yes, I want this. And I get the emotion. I want this car to look good. Yeah. Well, guess what? That's not enough. It's not enough. You got to have the determination. All right, I am determined. Now we got a plan, and it's going to take a while. It's going to cost me time. It's going to cost me money, and this thing did. I remember having this crazy notion that it was going to take 3 months. No chance. It's not realistic. I wasn't realistic. And I was disappointed, by the way, because I didn't have the long view in mind. And then I had to remind myself, dude, this stuff takes time. This car hasn't run in 20 years. You got to go ground up. Takes time. So it took about 6-7 months. So you have to be determined. Determination is key. And then here's the 4th thing I learned. Determination is wonderful, but it's always about execution. It's always about execution. I was determined for this future, but I had to pay somebody, and then there was a lot of execution, little itty bitty parts. Well, we got to put a new carburetor in. And then, well, we got some issues here, and we got to try this. Well, we thought it was running great. Now it's not. Oh, this is why. And there's execution, executing the plan, and then executing on the changes to the plan. Execution is key. It's not enough to just to be determined. You've got to execute on it. And the execution is what takes a long time. But it is the execution that leads to the fruition. So put that picture up there one more time. This car did not look like that 6 months ago. It's sitting in my garage right now. Got it last night. And I still got to do the interior. It's not done. It's not even close. And so I'm in the same process, okay? I've got to have the imagination. What do I want it to look like inside? And then I go, but yep, that's it. I'm making that decision. And now, boom, we got to do it. Got to save up the money. Got to then find the right people to do it and line it up, get on it, and go. And they've got to execute on it. It's not just going to happen. There is action of the head, the heart, and the hands. Hear what I just said. Those four things: imagination, conviction, determination, execution. That is action of the head, the heart, and the hands. All three. Got to have it. And that's what will get you where you want to be. Well, Joe, there it is. We got to get video of me and Joe tooling around in that thing. That'll be big fun. Hey, before I let you go, you matter. And you do have what it takes. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, this is the Ken Coleman Show. Press on.